The sound of a perfect shot echoed through the elite shooters club as the millionaire champion lowered his custom Remington. He turned to me, this man in his $5,000 shooting jacket, and looked me up and down in my department store cardigan. This is a place for real shooters, honey, not housewives playing with guns, he sneered. Leave the shooting to men who know what they're doing. The entire room laughed. No one saw me adjust my stance, the same stance my Navy SEAL husband taught me before they laid him to rest at Arlington. No one knew the ghost of America's deadliest sniper was standing beside me. They thought I didn't belong here. But would you bet $50,000 I'd prove them wrong? 3 years. That's how long it had been since I last held a gun. 3 years since I buried my heart at Arlington. 3 years of silence until the package arrived. The brown paper envelope sits on my kitchen table, innocuous but somehow threatening. A day passed to the Elite Shooters Club and a handwritten note from Michael Reeves. Nathan would want you to keep your promise. 3 years is long enough to grieve alone. Come back to the living, Emma. Michael, always direct. Just like Nathan. My fingers trace the embossed logo on the pass, and suddenly I'm back at that dusty range in Virginia. If I'm going to be away so much, Nathan had said, adjusting my stance with gentle hands, I want to know you can protect yourself. What began as a safety measure became our connection, a shared activity that gave me insight into his world of SEAL Team 6 operations. A world that eventually took him from me. The official report cited a helicopter crash during a classified mission. I knew better. There were aspects of Nathan's death that would remain redacted forever, just like parts of his life. I twist the simple gold band that still encircles my left ring finger. The last time we went shooting together was 2 days before his final deployment. Nathan had been unusually quiet, more focused on watching me than improving his own shots. Promise me something, he'd said, his voice rough against my ear. Promise me you'll keep practicing, even when I'm not here. I'd nodded, not understanding the gravity behind his request. Did he know? Did some soldier's intuition tell him he wouldn't come home? After the funeral, I couldn't bring myself to visit a range. His guns remained locked in their safe, untouched. I moved to Boston for a fresh start. A corporate accounting position where spreadsheets and quarterly reports created a comfortable numbness, where no one knew me as the widow of Master Chief Nathan Ghost Miller. Until now, I placed the day pass back in its envelope. I should throw it away. Continue the careful life I've constructed without him. But promises to the dead weigh more than promises to the living. They can never be renegotiated. I'll go once, just to honor his request. Then I can truly move on. I should have known places like this weren't meant for people like me. The receptionist's dismissive glance said it all my department store clothes and sensible shoes marked me as an intruder in their world of privilege. Membership cards only, she says flatly when I approach. I take a deep breath, pulling out the crinkled envelope. I have a day pass. It was a gift. Her perfectly manicured hand accepts it with visible reluctance. The Elite Shooters Club lives up to its name. Everything gleams with money. Custom firearms displayed like artwork. Men and women in designer shooting gear that probably costs more than my monthly rent. A tall man with a perpetual smirk watches me from across the room. Even without the snippets of conversation I overhear, 5-time national champion, Olympic gold, Remington's premium line, I'd know he was someone important here. His kingdom, his domain. Well, he drawls loudly as I try to find the basic range. Looks like someone took a wrong turn on the way to Walmart. Laughter follows, designed to draw attention to me. I keep my eyes fixed on the floor, finding a spot at the far end of the basic range. Stand your ground, Em. You belong wherever you choose to be. Nathan's voice echoes in my head. I almost laughed at the irony. This man with his designer shooting jacket and $15,000 custom Remington wouldn't last 5 minutes in the environments where Nathan operated, where shooting wasn't about trophies or applause, but about keeping your brothers alive and coming home. I carefully place my purse on the small shelf and withdraw a cloth-wrapped package. With practiced movements I haven't made in 3 years, but that somehow feel automatic, I unfold the material to reveal Nathan's standard Glock 19. The man approaches, his entourage following like courtiers. His cologne announces him before his voice does. "Excuse me, ma'am," he says, false politeness dripping with condescension. Are you sure you're in the right place? This isn't a knitting circle. I finally look up, meeting his blue eyes with a steadiness that momentarily throws him off balance. I'm just here to practice. Practice? He laughs, turning to his friends. Did you hear that, boys? She's here to practice. He turns back to me. Honey, do you even know which end of that gun the bullet comes out of? His friends laugh on cue. Something inside me snaps. I know enough, I say quietly. Really? He steps closer, invading my space. Women like you don't belong here. Go back to your recipe books and leave the real shooting to men who know what they're doing. The room goes quiet, several people shifting uncomfortably at his blatant sexism. But no one speaks up. Maybe we should let the target decide who belongs. I suggest, my voice stronger than I expected. He blinks, surprised by my resistance. Then his face splits into a predatory grin. $10,000 says you can't hit the bullseye from 50 yards, he announces, pulling out his checkbook as if it were a weapon. If by some miracle you make the shot, I pay. If you miss, you leave and never come back. Deal. I don't have that kind of money, I reply. His smile widens. If by some miracle you make the shot, I pay. If you miss, you leave and never come back. Deal. I twist my wedding ring once, a gesture so small only Nathan would have noticed it. 3 years ago, I would have walked away. But something about his arrogance, his certainty of his own superiority, awakens something in me. All right, I say quietly. You're on. 10 says she doesn't even hit the paper. One of his friends jokes. 20 says she closes her eyes when she pulls the trigger. Another replies. The champion, someone called him Blake, stands behind me with his arms crossed, already counting his victory. As I raised the Glock, something shifted inside me. The world narrowed to 3 points: myself, the gun, and the target. Just as Nathan taught me. Flashback in hand. Shooting isn't about aggression, Em. It's about absolute control over your body, your breath, your fear. No one notices the change in my posture: spine straightening, shoulders relaxing, feet shifting into a perfectly balanced stance. No one recognizes the expert grip and the controlled breathing pattern Nathan drilled into me over countless hours. I block out the whispers, the sneers, the doubts. In this moment, it's just Nathan and me at that dusty range in Virginia. His hand gently correcting my elbow. His voice calm in my ear. Breathe in. Hold. Exhale halfway. Squeeze. The shot rings out, crisp and clean in the hushed range. The mechanical whir of the target retrieval system seems unnaturally loud through the settling echo. Blake maintains his amused expression, though uncertainty crosses his features as the target moves slowly toward us, building suspense with each mechanical click. When the paper finally arrives, a perfect hole marks the dead center of the bullseye. Am Tan. Tiang tho han hen kin gak tu dam dong. The silence that follows is profound, a vacuum of sound where Blake and his entourage struggle to process what they're seeing. I calmly place the Glock on the counter, my expression unchanged. Blake snatches the target, examining it closely as if searching for evidence of trickery. His face reddens. Beginner's luck, he finally declares, his voice carrying a sharp edge. Anyone can get lucky once. A woman approaches the manager, based on her authoritative presence. That was an exceptional shot, Miss Miller, I supply quietly. Emma Miller. She nods, offering a smile that's both apologetic and impressed. Miss Miller, perhaps you'd like to try our advanced range facilities. Clearly, you're not a beginner. Before I can respond, Blake slams the target down on the counter. Hold on. One lucky shot doesn't make her a pro. His eyes narrow, pride wounded. Let's see if she can do it again, this time with real stakes. You've already lost once, I point out quietly. Perhaps you should quit while you're only down $10,000. Several spectators chuckle. Blake's face darkens. $50,000, he announces loudly, pulling his checkbook from his jacket pocket. If you can hit 3 bullseyes in a row at 75 yards. If you miss even one, you publicly admit you cheated and leave. An older man in the growing crowd of spectators places a cautioning hand on Blake's shoulder. Blake, perhaps this isn't. Stay out of this, Senator. Blake snaps without looking at him. We're just having a friendly wager. There's nothing friendly about your behavior, I say, surprised by my own boldness. But I'll take your challenge. I pause, then add, on one condition. If I win, the $50,000 goes to the Veterans Support Foundation. Why? Your boyfriend a soldier? Blake sneers. My husband was, I say quietly. Navy SEL. He's buried at Arlington. Something flickers in Blake's eyes, unease, perhaps even shame, but it's quickly replaced by determination. Fine. He nods, his smirk returning. It's not like you'll win anyway. As I load fresh magazines methodically, I feel Nathan's presence more strongly than I have since Arlington. Not haunting me, but guiding me. Nathan's voice in a whisper overlay. You've got this, Em. Show them what quiet excellence looks like. I didn't come here for this. I came to keep a promise, to reconnect with a piece of Nathan. Yet somehow, I'd stepped into something much larger, a public spectacle, a challenge that would expose the private world Nathan and I had built together. The manager, Rebecca Johnson, approaches me as I prepare to leave. Miss Miller, I should warn you. Mr. Radcliffe doesn't lose gracefully, and he has considerable influence here. I nod, understanding her concern. I didn't come looking for trouble. Yet you shot like a professional, she observes, studying me carefully. Who are you really, Emma Miller? The question hangs between us, weighted with implications. How do I explain who I am? An accountant who once shot with her SEAL husband? A widow carrying the techniques of America's most lethal sniper? Just someone keeping a promise, I reply, barely audible. When I reach my apartment, my phone is already ringing. Michael Reeves. Of course. The shooting community is smaller than most people realize, especially among those with military connections. I let it go to voicemail. 3 times. My phone buzzes again, displaying an unfamiliar number. After hesitation, I answer. Miss Miller, this is Rebecca Johnson from the Elite Shooters Club. I tense immediately. Miss Johnson, what can I do for you? I probably shouldn't be calling you, but I thought you should know. Blake has people looking into your background. He's convinced you cheated somehow. I close my eyes, unsurprised but disappointed. Thank you for the warning, Miss Johnson. But I have nothing to hide. Nothing except the hollow space where my heart used to be. Nothing except the memories of Nathan teaching me to shoot during our precious time together. Look, Rebecca continues, her voice lower. I don't know who you are or where you learned to shoot like that, but Blake Radcliffe has a lot of influence in this city. His family practically owns half of Boston. If he feels threatened, he can make things difficult for you. Years as a military spouse taught me about real threats versus intimidation tactics. Rich men's games versus real danger. I'd slept alone while Nathan was in countries I couldn't name, doing things he couldn't tell me about. Blake Radcliffe's tantrum didn't register on my scale of concerns. I'll be careful, I promise. But I intend to honor our agreement. After the call, I open the small wooden box containing Nathan's medals, letters, and our wedding photo. Inside, beneath the folded flag from the funeral, lies his logbook, a record of his training sessions and missions. I flip through it, finding the pages where he documented our practice sessions together. Close up, Nathan's handwriting in logbook. His handwriting is precise. Emma, 50 yards, 9-10 bullseyes. Natural talent, better than most recruits. I trace his handwriting with my fingertip. What have I gotten myself into, Nathan? This was supposed to be simple. This is Emma Miller. I won't be coming in today. I called in sick for the first time in 3 years. The spreadsheets and quarterly reports could wait. Today was about honoring Nathan, about reconnecting with what he'd taught me. Driving to a public range far from Elite Shooters' exclusive clientele, I realize how much I've cut myself off from life. Since Nathan's death, I've existed in a carefully constructed bubble work, apartment, occasional grocery shopping. No friends, no hobbies, no risks. For 8 hours, I practice methodically, working through every technique Nathan taught me. Each shot is a conversation with his memory. I remember our first session after he'd convinced me to try shooting. My unexpected bullseye. The surprise in his eyes, followed by unmistakable pride. You're a natural, he'd whispered. You've got the 3 things that make a great shooter: steady hands, perfect vision, and the ability to stay calm under pressure. By afternoon, my phone buzzes with a text from Rebecca. Blake requesting rule changes for competition now wants 10 different firearms at varying distances. Board approved. I understand the implication immediately. Blake is restructuring the competition to showcase the breadth of his training and experience areas where I might be vulnerable. Nathan taught me well with handguns, but my experience with specialized rifles is limited. My response is simple. Thank you for letting me know. No changes needed on my end. Another text arrives, this one from an unknown number. Blake's investigator was asking questions at Peterson's gun shop in Virginia Beach. They know about Nathan. My hand still over the disassembled Glock. Peterson's was where Nathan bought me my first holster. The owner knew us, knew Nathan was SEAL Team 6, knew he was called the Ghost for his ability to hit targets no one else could see. It was only a matter of time before Blake discovered exactly who my husband was and who had trained me. I should feel anxious, but instead, a strange calm settles over me. Let him dig. Let him discover that he mocked the widow of a man whose skills made his look like a child's finger painting next to a Remington masterpiece. For the first time since Nathan's death, I feel something besides numbness or grief. I feel purpose. The knock on my door startles me. I'm not expecting anyone. You couldn't return a call? Michael Reeves asks when I open the door, his gruff tone belied by the concern in his eyes. The last time I saw him was at Arlington, standing at attention as they lowered Nathan's casket. I let him in, relieved to see a familiar face despite my reluctance to reconnect with Nathan's world. I've been busy, I explained simply. Michael surveys the apartment, noting the shooting manual spread across the table. So I've heard. The whole community's talking about you and Radcliffe. We sit across from each other at my kitchen table, two people connected only by our love for a ghost. The guys are pissed, he says without preamble. This rich prick mocks you, not knowing who you are, who Nathan was. What does it matter who I am? I challenge. His behavior would be unacceptable regardless. Michael nods. True, but there's a certain poetry to this particular situation. The wife of America's deadliest sniper being underestimated by a trophy hunter? Exactly. Michael's smile is grim. If the ghost were here, he'd tell me to handle it myself. I finish softly. Damn right he would. Nathan would be proud, he says after a moment. Not just of the shooting of you stepping back into the world. My eyes burn suddenly with unexpected tears. I'm not sure that's what I'm doing. This wasn't planned, Michael. He reaches across the table, his weathered hand covering mine briefly. You're not alone in this. I've made some calls. There'll be friends in the audience tomorrow. Friends. Nathan's teammates. The brothers who spoke at his funeral about honor and sacrifice while I stood frozen, unable to comprehend a world without him. As Michael prepares to leave, he turns back at the door. One more thing, Blake has security cameras showing his technical advisor checking your equipment last night. He's playing dirty. I feel my jaw tighten. So he can't win fairly? Men like that rarely can, Michael replies. Watch your six. The next morning, I arrive at a specialized range outside the city where I've arranged private access to practice with long-range rifles. As I pull into the parking lot, I notice a black SUV with government plates. Leaning against it is a tall man with the unmistakable bearing of special operations personnel. Mrs. Miller, Commander Wilson, former Team 3. I served with Nathan in Baghdad in 16. I study him cautiously. I don't recall Nathan mentioning you. The man's expression remains neutral. We weren't in the same squad, ma'am, but in the teams, we all knew the ghost's reputation. For the next 4 hours, Commander Wilson guides me through the intricacies of the high-precision rifles I'll face in the competition. Nathan taught you well with handguns, he observes as I complete a series of increasingly accurate shots. You have his patience and breathing control. This isn't so different, just magnified. Trust what you know. As we pack up, Wilson hands me a small notebook. Nathan's distance calculations and wind adjustment formulas. He developed them himself. Might come in handy tomorrow. I accept the notebook with reverence. Thank you, Commander, but why are you helping me? You don't know me. Wilson's expression softened slightly. When you lose a brother in the teams, you look after what mattered to him. Nathan talked about you how proud he was of your progress, your natural ability. Said you had the calmest hands he'd ever seen on a civilian. As he departs, I realize my private challenge has expanded into something larger, a symbolic confrontation between the privilege that Blake embodied and the quiet excellence that Nathan represented. Flamboyant wealth against understated service. For the first time in 3 years, I feel connected to something bigger than my grief. The night before the competition, sleep eludes me. Each time I close my eyes, I see Nathan's face the day before his final deployment. Had he known? Had some soldier's intuition told him he wouldn't return? I review the notebook Commander Wilson gave me, studying Nathan's precise handwriting outlining distance calculations and wind adjustments. His methodical approach to marksmanship extended beyond physical technique to mathematical precision accounting for variables most shooters never even considered. My phone buzzes with another text from Rebecca. Final station tomorrow equals Macmillan TAC 338. Custom long-range precision rifle Blake has exclusive experience with. One of only 5 in civilian hands in Northeast. Be prepared. I close my eyes, calculating the implications. The competition seemed increasingly stacked against me. Another text arrives, this one from Michael. Security footage shows Blake's tech guy accessing your lane equipment after hours. Rebecca has the video. They're playing dirty. Of course they are. When talent fails, cheating follows. I twist my wedding ring, thinking of Nathan. I'm not sure I can win this one. I whisper to his memory. The logbook lies open beside me, displaying Nathan's notes from one of our last sessions. Emma compensates perfectly for left-hand drift. Adjusts stance instinctively. Rare natural intuition for ballistics. He saw something in me I couldn't see in myself, not just marksmanship skills, but a strength I'm only now beginning to rediscover. My phone rings. Unknown number. Hello. Mrs. Miller. A male voice I don't recognize. I represent Mr. Radcliffe. I think we can come to an arrangement that would be beneficial to both parties. Meaning, Mr. Radcliffe is prepared to donate $25,000 to your veterans charity if you withdraw from tomorrow's competition citing personal reasons. I almost laugh. Let me get this straight. Your boss is so afraid of losing to me that he's willing to pay me to walk away. Mr. Radcliffe simply recognizes that sometimes discretion is the better part of valor. Interesting choice of words for someone who's never served. I reply. Tell Mr. Radcliffe I'll see him tomorrow. I hang up, smiling for the first time in days. Blake's attempts to manipulate the competition revealed more about him than about me. Each desperate change to the rules, each behind-the-scenes investigation, showed his fear of losing control. I close the notebook and turn out the light. Win or lose tomorrow, I've already reclaimed something valuable, the connection to Nathan that I tried to bury with him, the strength he always believed I possessed. For the first time in 3 years, I feel truly alive again. And that's a victory Blake Radcliffe can never take from me. The Elite Shooters Club buzzes with unprecedented activity. What began as a private duel has transformed into a spectacle, with press and spectators filling the viewing areas. Blake arrives surrounded by sponsors and an entourage dressed in logo emblazoned gear. His entrance is calculated for maximum attention, a champion in his domain. My simple jeans and navy button-down feel appropriate. This isn't about show, it's about substance. Blake approaches me before we begin, his smile failing to reach his eyes. Miss Miller, I trust you slept well. The subtle emphasis on my name implies he's discovered my connection to Nathan. I should warn you, the pressure can be overwhelming for those unaccustomed to the spotlight. No shame in withdrawing. I meet his gaze steadily. I'm sure you'd like that, Mr. Radcliffe. But my husband taught me about performing under pressure. Your husband, he says carefully. Master Chief Miller, the ghost. Quite the reputation in certain circles. You've been doing your homework. His smile tightens. Know thy enemy, Mrs. Miller. Is that what I am? Your enemy. You made yourself my enemy when you humiliated me in my own club. I shake my head. You did that to yourself, Mr. Radcliffe. I'm just here to keep a promise. As I prepare for the first station, I notice a group of men with unmistakable military bearings seated in the back row, Michael Reeves among them. His subtle nod bolsters my resolve. Each shot I fire isn't just about hitting a target. It's a conversation with Nathan, a prayer, a promise kept. Blake is shooting for applause, I'm shooting to find my way back to the world of the living. Montage en hand voix temps. Tiang Sung Kok now, Tiang Tim Dap, Tiang Tho Do. By the fourth station, Blake holds a slight lead thanks to his competition experience. At the fifth station, I noticed the equipment issue immediately. The trigger pull on the Sig Sauer is subtly heavier than standard. I adjust my stance and match Blake's score despite the handicap. Having trouble with the trigger, Mrs. Miller? Blake asks innocently as we move to the next station. Nothing I can't handle, I reply, meeting his eyes. Interesting modifications to the equipment, though. His expression flickers briefly. Standard competition settings. Is that what we're calling sabotage these days? His face hardens. Be careful with your accusations. Or what? You'll try harder to cheat. I step closer, lowering my voice. My husband taught me to overcome worse obstacles than a tampered trigger pull, Mr. Radcliffe. You'll need to do better. By the ninth station, the scores are tied. The competition will be decided entirely by the final, most challenging station, the Macmillan TAC 338, at an exceptional distance. I immediately notice subtle adjustments to the scope and stock. Rather than protesting, I consult Nathan's notebook, finding his formulas for compensating for equipment variations. Blake completes his sequence first, placing 9 of 10 shots within the innermost rings. His final score sets a benchmark requiring near perfection from me to overcome. Not everyone is built for championship pressure. He remarks loud enough for nearby spectators to hear. Especially not amateurs. Several of the military men in the back stand silently, their posture rigid with controlled anger. A message without words. We're watching. Blake's smile falters slightly. Taking position behind the rifle, I feel a peculiar calmness descend, the same focused state Nathan described from his missions. I make adjustments based on his formulas, compensating for the subtle sabotage with techniques born of combat experience. In this moment, I'm not shooting for the audience or against Blake. I'm shooting for Nathan, completing a conversation we started years ago. As I prepare for the final shot, someone near Blake's entourage flashes a reflection into my sight line. A deliberate distraction. As I line up the final shot, the range disappears. The wealthy spectators, Blake's scowling face, even the rifle in my hands, all fade away. In that perfect moment of focus, I'm back on that dusty range where Nathan first taught me. Nathan's voice, intimate. You see him? The stillness between heartbeats, that's where accuracy lives. With absolute control, I send the final round downrange with unwavering precision. As I exhale and squeeze the trigger, I'm not winning a competition. I'm finding my way home. A.M. Tan. Tiang Sung Hon Hao. Saudullah Suam Lang. Roy Tiang Vio Te Bung No. A 10th consecutive bullseye that surpasses Blake's performance. The crowd erupts in spontaneous applause that transforms into a standing ovation. In the back, the group of military men rise as one, their faces stoic but their eyes speaking volumes. A silent tribute not just to me, but to the man who taught me. Rebecca announces the results officially. Emma Miller, first place. Blake Radcliffe, second place. Blake's sportsmanship mask slips, revealing raw fury as he offers a perfunctory handshake. This isn't over, he whispers. I grip his hand firmly, forcing him to look me in the eyes. Yes, it is. And I believe you owe $50,000 to the Veterans Support Foundation. He pulls his hand away. You think this proves anything? That a military widow with beginner's luck can replace years of championship experience. His voice carries throughout the now silent room. This was nothing but a publicity stunt. The equipment was rigged. The equipment was indeed rigged, Mr. Radcliffe. Rebecca cuts in, holding up her tablet displaying security footage of Blake's technical advisor tampering with the competition firearms. But not in Ms. Miller's favor. The club's security system records all access to the equipment room. That's taken out of context. Blake stammers, his face pale. He was doing routine maintenance. At 2 a.m., Rebecca raises an eyebrow. On Mrs. Miller's equipment only? You set me up. Blake turns to me, desperation in his eyes. No, Mr. Radcliffe. You did that to yourself. I reply calmly. I just showed up and shot straight. This is bullshit. Blake explodes, throwing his shooting glasses to the floor. She couldn't have made those shots without cheating. Women don't shoot like that. The room goes completely silent. Blake seems to realize he's crossed a line, even his money can't walk back. In this moment, I feel no satisfaction in his humiliation. Nathan always said victory without honor was just another form of defeat. What matters is the truth revealed not just about the competition, but about character. As the crowd disperses, Michael approaches with several of the military men who attended. The ghost would be proud, he says simply, using Nathan's call sign with a reverence that brings unexpected tears to my eyes. I look around at these men who served with my husband, who knew parts of him I never could. Thank you for being here, I say. It means more than you know. Commander Wilson nods toward Nathan's notebook in my hand. His calculations never failed. Neither did his judgment about people. He glances briefly at Blake being escorted away by his legal team. He saw something special in you, Emma. Not just marksmanship. Mrs. Miller, is it true you were trained by a Navy SEAL? Emma, how does it feel to beat the 5-time champion? Did you know Blake Radcliffe was cheating? The press swarms forward, but Michael and the others form a protective barrier around me. No questions today, Michael states firmly. Mrs. Miller has already proven everything she needed to prove. By Sunday morning, video clips of my perfect final sequence and Blake's meltdown have spread across media platforms. Hashtag Leave the Shooting to Men becomes a trending hashtag ironically used to celebrate women breaking barriers in male-dominated fields. I awake to dozens of messages from journalists and sponsors, but respond to none, making only a call to Michael. It's gotten bigger than I expected. I tell him. What do I do now? That depends on what you want, Michael replies. Privacy or justice? I consider briefly. Blake hasn't paid the donation, and the equipment tampering was fraud. There should be consequences. 3 days later, I review the settlement offer from Blake's legal team. A $100,000 donation to the foundation, double the original amount, a public apology, and a request for a private meeting before any statements are made. That meeting takes place in a neutral conference room. Blake enters with his attorney, his usual swagger diminished, designer attire replaced by a conservative business suit. Mrs. Miller, he begins, then stops, visibly struggling. His attorney nudges him. Mrs. Miller, I want to apologize for my conduct. The rehearsed statement gives way to something more genuine as he continues. The truth is, I've built my entire identity around being the best. When you threatened that, I reacted. He pauses, criminally. He looks down at his hands. I've never faced someone who shoots for reasons beyond trophies or recognition. It was unsettling. Unsettling enough to cheat. I asked directly. He flinches. Yes, I couldn't face being beaten, especially by a woman. I finish for him. Someone without my resources, he corrects. But yes, the fact that you're a woman played into my reaction. I was raised with certain prejudices. I study him, thinking of Nathan's belief that everyone deserves a chance at redemption. Mr. Radcliffe, I didn't enter that competition seeking to unsettle anyone. I was keeping a promise to my husband. Your actions undermined the integrity of a sport you claimed to respect and dishonored the charity you agreed to support. Blake nods, genuine shame crossing his features. That's why I've increased the donation and accepted the 3-year suspension from competition. And the public apology? I press. We'll acknowledge everything. The tampering, the sexist remarks, all of it. He meets my eyes for the first time. I can't take back what I said or did, but I can own it. The settlement is signed, and as we prepare to leave, Blake extends his hand. For what it's worth, you're the finest shooter I've ever competed against. Your husband taught you well. I accept the handshake briefly. He would say I was already a good student. Sometimes the right teacher just helps us discover what's already there. Montage Mton. Tieng Zhe Dung. Tieng Trang Thiet by Duok Lap Dat. Tieng Koi Noi, Kwa Kuchien Bin. 6 months later, I stand in the newly established training range at the Veterans Support Foundation's Rehabilitation Center, funded by Blake's donation and contributions from manufacturers. My first class consists of 6 veterans carrying the weight of their service in different ways, some with prosthetic limbs, others with the 1,000-yard stare I recognize from Nathan's darkest days. Good morning. I begin, my voice stronger than it has been in years. My name is Emma Miller. Their faces show the wariness of people who have heard too many promises from too many well-meaning civilians who couldn't possibly understand. I'm not a soldier or a champion, I continue. Just someone who learned that sometimes the steadiest hands belong to those who have endured the greatest shaking. A Marine with a prosthetic leg asks bluntly, "Why are you doing this, ma'am? You're not military." I meet his eyes without flinching. My husband was. Master Chief Nathan Miller, SEAL Team 6. I take a deep breath. He taught me that precision shooting can be meditation when your mind won't quiet down. I don't mention Arlington, or the folded flag, or the nights I still wake reaching for someone who isn't there. I don't have to. They understand loss. So I'm not here to teach you how to shoot, I explain, picking up a Glock similar to the one Nathan gave me. You all know how to do that. I'm here to show you how shooting can be more than a skill. It can be a way back when you feel lost. Let's begin with stance, I say, demonstrating the position Nathan taught me years ago. Feet shoulder-width apart, slight bend in the knees. As they mirror my position, I see it in their eyes, the momentary relief of focusing on something concrete, something controllable, when so much else isn't. Montage Mtan. Tieng Huan Lian. Tieng Sung Catch Now. Tieng Noi Chien Va Doi Kai Cia Tieng Koi. By the end of the first session, something has shifted. The wariness hasn't disappeared, but there's a tentative trust forming. One by one, they thank me before leaving. Not the reflexive thanks of strangers to service members, but the authentic gratitude of people who have found something they didn't know they needed. Rebecca Johnson joins the program as a volunteer instructor, bringing her competition experience to complement my more unorthodox methods. "You've created something special here," she tells me one afternoon as we clean equipment after class. "Nathan created it." I correct her. "I'm just continuing what he started." She shakes her head. "Don't diminish your role, Emma. Plenty of military widows retreat into grief. You've transformed yours into purpose." At the Foundation's fundraiser 6 months later, I addressed the gathering, still uncomfortable with public speaking, but driven by conviction stronger than fear. 1 year ago, I walked into a shooting range for the first time in 3 years, keeping a promise to my late husband. I expected to reconnect with a skill he taught me, then return to my quiet life. I pause, looking around at the faces of donors, veterans, and supporters. Instead, I found myself in a confrontation that led to this program and the community we're building together. When the Foundation announces the annual Nathan Ghost Miller Excellence in Marksmanship Scholarship for veterans pursuing careers in shooting instruction, the tears come without warning. The first recipient, a former Army Ranger who has overcome significant injuries, accepts the honor with quiet dignity. I twist my wedding ring one final time, a gesture that has evolved from grief to gratitude. "This one's for you, Nathan, for everything you taught me about standing my ground." Michael finds me after the ceremony. "You've come a long way from that woman who wouldn't return my calls," he says with characteristic directness. "I had a good teacher," I reply. He nods toward the veterans gathered around the refreshment table, laughing with an ease many of them had forgotten was possible. "Actually, you've had several. And now you're paying it forward." In the back of the room, I notice a familiar figure. Blake Radcliffe stands awkwardly in a simple suit, no entourage surrounding him. When our eyes meet, he gives a respectful nod. Not friendship, not forgiveness exactly, but acknowledgement. People can change when faced with authentic excellence. As I drive home from the fundraiser, I feel Nathan's presence more strongly than I have since Arlington. Not as a ghost, but as a foundation, the bedrock upon which I'm building something new. The gold band still encircles my finger, but it no longer feels like a tether to what I've lost. Instead, it's a reminder of what I've found, strength I never knew I had, a community I never expected to join, and purpose born from promise. My greatest victory wasn't defeating a champion who had underestimated me, but finding my way back to the world, rebuilding a life that honored both past and future. For those watching my journey, from being ignored at the elite shooters club to confidently leading the Foundation's programs, the lesson was clear: never underestimate the quiet ones. Behind their silence might lie determination forged through adversity, skills honed through dedication, and values anchored in experiences beyond understanding. And if you find yourself dismissed or overlooked, remember that sometimes the most important promises we keep aren't to others, but to ourselves, promises to stand our ground, to honor our past without being imprisoned by it, and to find purpose even in our deepest loss. I kept my word, Nathan. I whispered to the quiet car, and found my way back to the living. Perhaps that's what he intended all along.